Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
We talk news.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Hope you are doing well. Welcome on into your Tuesday, May 13th. And there is a lot going on. Appreciate you joining us here on Super Talk 99.7. And we do want to talk about Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia. The president wants to make it rain, it would appear. Have you noticed that there's a lot of hand-wringing? I've got a lot to get to today. Have you noticed there's a lot of hand-wringing going on about, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is going to Saudi Arabia. It's one of his first, I think it is his actual first visit abroad, is it not? To the Middle East here in his second term in office.
He actually went to Rome for the funeral of the Pope.
He did do that.
Not an official, yeah.
Right. But he's looking for deals. And so I think part of what the president is doing is he's forgetting about diplomacy just for a moment. He wants deals. I think President Trump right now, he is on a roll. You've got some people who are of the chattering class, and they're saying, oh gosh, diplomacy is dead because Trump, he's not going to see a NATO country. He's not going to see, I don't know, Canada, whatever, but they came to see us, so whatever. But he's going to Saudi Arabia. And I don't see anything wrong with the president going to Saudi Arabia to make some deals. How much do you want to bet Joan Jones? Because he's going to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates. Do you think he's going there with maybe a slideshow or some sort of a presentation on how he wants to turn Gaza into a resort? Do you think that'll come up?
I don't think so.
You don't? Oh, come on, Joan.
No,
Really?
He's looking for a defense pact, and he's there for military sales. He also wants to get the two sides together. He wants Israel and Saudi Arabia to hug it out and be done with this so that they can move on.
It was just this kind of a trip, Joan.
Yeah.
In administration number one, where he came back with a $110 billion arms deal.
Yeah.
So I think, again, the Trump administration and President Trump, I think he feels like he is on a roll because he got that deal with China, the 90-day pause on the tariffs and all of that. We covered that extensively yesterday. But he's got that. He has negotiated for the release of that hostage from Hamas. He helped to negotiate the peace deal between Pakistan and India. The man is indeed on a roll. And so I think that he doesn't want to go see a NATO country. He wants to go see Saudi Arabia and make a deal for America. There's a lot, by the way, going on here at home. We all know. I'm trying to get in touch with Congressman Tim Burchett. I want him to join us. Of course, you have people on the left screaming. Have you noticed they're always screaming about something? Like, it's trying to play whack-a-mole with these people on the left, where it's like, okay, what are you screaming about now? Like, what is the problem today? Well, today, they're accusing the Republicans of wanting to gut Medicare. So this is, of course, something that they talk about all of the time. Every time there is a continuing resolution, every time there is budget negotiations, they're always screaming about the oligarchy and trying to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the rest of that nonsense. So that is where we will start today as the president is in Saudi Arabia, again, looking for deals. And I will respectfully disagree with Joan. I think it's going to be a side conversation about President Trump wanting to turn Gaza into a resort.
Okay. You think he'll show him that video?
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I guarantee you Trump's got the video on like his phone, and he's just going to break it out and start handing his phone to all of the other foreign leaders. I think that'd be very funny indeed. By the way, Jamal Khashoggi, people are bringing that up as well. It's like, how many times do we have to have this same stupid argument about Jamal Khashoggi? He was the Washington Post. I don't know if he was a journalist or a columnist.
He's a,
Was he a reporter?
journalist. Yeah, you could call him a journalist.
All right. And he was, of course, they say, murdered by the Saudi family. So whatever. I mean, Trump was, we had this conversation back in 2018 when Trump said, listen, when you run in these circles, and we could go down the whole road of the Muslim Brotherhood and all that other kind of stuff. But Trump said, I'm not going to let that derail this big deal that he had back in 2018 with a $110 billion arms deal. Joe Biden he never really embraced Saudi Arabia, and he kept them sort of at arm's length. Trump is nowhere near that mindset or that mentality. He wants deals, and he wants deals ultimately for the American people. So that is what the president is doing in Saudi Arabia. We'll continue to cover that trip, and I think this is going to be a very big deal because the president will come back with some good deals for America and ultimately to make lives for the American people better. Now, Congressman John Rose appeared on Matt Murphy's show yesterday, and Matt asked him first question. And I love the first question. It's kind of like what I asked Scott Desjardins, Congressman Scott Desjardins, when he was on Nashville's Morning News a couple of weeks ago. And that is, are we getting enough done? This is what John Rose said.
Well, of course, I think we'd all like to see Congress move faster, but we have to keep in mind that the founders set it up the way they did. And so the process is a little laborious and slow at times, and it's frustrating. But I think we are making good progress. So, we've had 8 of the 11 committees that have got to mark up language for the one big beautiful bill that have gotten their work done. 3 more that are going to do it this week, all with the hope of getting this to the House floor and then providing leadership and leverage for the United States Senate that is going to be trailing behind us. So I think that needs to get done.
Right, and it does need to get done. But here's the deal. We can all walk and chew gum at the same time, unless you're a member of Congress, apparently. Trump has done about 160 or so executive orders. Very few have made it into law. The Lake and Riley Act is luckily the exception. And I do get that some of these will be in the big, beautiful bill, including, by the way, tax extensions. And obviously, that is huge. Yesterday, House Republicans came out with and I'm going to air quote this, the sweeping tax breaks in this priority bill with a $4.9 trillion price tag. Some say there are cuts to Medicaid, cuts to food stamps, and energy programs used by millions of Americans. In other words, what Trump is doing and what the Republicans in the House are doing is they are targeting Green New Deal type stuff. Now, I don't know exactly what it is, but that's what they've been talking about going after for a long time. Now, here's the question about Medicaid and food stamps. Part of what they're looking at is waste, fraud, and abuse. That's number one. And number two, they're also looking for work and eligibility requirements. Now, that's not a bad thing unless you're a Democrat, because if you are like me, the world falls under a couple of different categories as far as people here in America on these kinds of programs. Is okay, so you're on food stamps, let's just say, or you're on any kind of a government benefit. Could you get your ass out there and work? It's a question, and I think it's a valid question. And this is something that the American people who slave day after day after day, yet we see all of these other people taking advantage of the system. And you see these folks that sit around watching The View all day and whatever else, and Dr. Phil and whatever else is on TV, and they could be working. They could be working at Target. They could be working at McDonald's. I heard on the news broadcast on the way in, McDonald's is about ready to hire 375,000 people. And so it seems to me, if you are a Republican, if you are a conservative, then you want eligibility requirements placed on people who are getting some sort of a government benefit. The other question is how many illegal aliens are getting these kind of government benefits. I would say that falls under waste, fraud, and abuse. It is 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. At Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So again, these horrific cuts to Medicaid. I mean, I can hear, Balloon Hair Bernie right now. I can hear AOC. I can hear Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and all of these folks that are going to be screaming that this is what the Republicans in the House of Representatives want to do. The Congressional Budget Office, this is what they say, because I'm trying to be fair and give you the entire story. The Congressional Budget Office says as many as 8.6 million people could lose coverage over the next 10 years. So then, of course, my question would be, well, how many of those folks are either illegal aliens, they could be working, but they refuse? And I don't know the answers to that question. But when they say people, okay, can we dig further into that? Because these 8.6 million people, are they part of the waste, fraud, and abuse? Are they part of the illegal aliens that a lot of conservatives and Republicans and Elon Musk talk about when you look at who is on Medicaid and so forth? I mean, remember what Elon said.
Entitlements fraud, that includes like Social Security, disability, Medicaid. Entitlements fraud for illegal aliens is what is serving as a gigantic magnetic force to pull people in from all around the world and keep them here. Like basically, if you pay people at a standard of living that is above 90% of Earth, then you have a very powerful incentive for 90% of Earth to come here and to stay here. But if you end the illegal alien fraud, then you turn off that magnet, and they leave. And they stop coming, and the ones that are here, many of them will simply leave. And if that happens, they will lose a massive number of Democratic voters.
All right, so this is from ABC News. It seeks to extend, talking about the tax, the big beautiful bill as it relates to tax breaks. The Republican seeks to extend the tax breaks approved during Donald Trump's first term and boost the standard deduction, child tax credit, and estate tax exemption, while adding new tax breaks on tipped wages, overtime pay, Social Security benefits, and auto loans that Donald Trump promised during his campaign for the White House. They say there is also a tripling of the SALT tax, the state and local tax deduction called SALT, from $10,000 up to $30,000 for couples. And by the way, this, as you may or may not know, the SALT tax really, it's like a write-off of your federal taxes at the state level. And this really does help the blue cities like New York and Philadelphia, those blue states and the blue cities. And they're already out there saying that it's not enough. Private universities would also be hit with a hefty new tax on their endowment, as much as 21%, as the Trump administration goes after the Ivy League and other campuses. Of course, we all know that battle over anti-Semitism, places like Harvard, Columbia University, and so forth. They also talk about this. One unusual provision would terminate the tax-exempt status of groups the State Department says support terrorists, which civil society advocates warn is a way to potentially punish those at odds with the Trump administration. Well, what does that really mean? I mean, look, if you support Hamas and you support the Taliban, well, then you are supporting terrorists. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're at odds with the Trump administration. I mean, I guess it really actually does, because the Trump administration does not support terrorists. So I guess it just depends on, the devil is always in the details. But again, my opinion is that if you're an NGO or you are a college or university, or you're one of these groups that supports these kinds of organizations like, the Taliban or Hamas and so forth, there's groups out there that enjoy a tax exempt status here in America that support these terrorist organizations. Why in the world would we give them a tax exempt status. It makes all the sense in the world that we, the American people, should not be subsidizing or supporting these kinds of organizations. Late Monday, last night, the House Agriculture Committee released its proposals, cutting $290 billion from federal nutrition programs, in part by shifting costs to the states and requiring able-bodied adults without dependents to fulfill work requirements until they are 64 years old rather than 54 to qualify for food aid. I don't know. Am I in the minority on this? I don't have any problem with that. If you are an able-bodied man, then you need to go to work. Or an able-bodied person, quite frankly, which is how they word it, obviously, able-bodied adults, then go to work. McDonald's is hiring. Walmart, I can guarantee you, they're hiring. Target is hiring. There are places that need good people to come work. And you can't tell me that all of these people that are on all of these government benefits are not able to work. I think that's BS, clearly.
It's for the good of the economy, and obviously not only does it make permanent, hopefully, the tax cuts from 2017, but it will also provide President Trump with the resources he needs to finish the work of getting our borders under control, providing for the national defense, and making sure that U.S. is, again, a leader in energy production all around the world. So there's a lot of good in it. On top of all that, obviously, we hope that it's going to include a tax cut on, or a tax elimination on tips and overtime pay and Social Security benefits. So a lot of good to be done here that's going to really charge the American economy. And I think we're going to get it done in the House, and maybe we get it done. I'm hoping we get it done before Memorial Day.
Yeah, and again, that is Congressman John Rose. Of course, you know that he is also running for Senate. By the way, Josh Hawley has now come out with a op-ed piece warning his colleagues in the House and also in the Senate, of course, against Medicaid cuts. So this is going to be a big debate within the Republican Party. It is 5:23 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open at 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. It was a last minute, just so you know, Joan Jones, it was like Omaha, where we were trying to figure out a good poll question, and it was a last minute kind of a thing. And if you want to see a lot of fun, watch the opening moments of the program as I was actually turning on the camera and all this stuff behind me because I failed to turn everything on this morning. But KGB, what is our official poll question? I have already forgotten.
Professional as always.
It's going to be that kind of a day.
It's, do you believe Republicans are truly cutting Medicare as the news is reporting? And 90% say no.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. But I think for the Democrats and the media, you can only cry wolf so many times before people either they don't believe them or they don't care. And I'm kind of like right there. If that's all the Republicans are doing is they're trying to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, illegal aliens, number one. Number two, forcing able-bodied adults to go back to work, then I have absolutely no problem with that. It is 5:24 on Nashville's Morning News, and Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan.
So a Metro Nashville police officer is recovering and a shooting suspect is dead. We've got the details on the exchange of gunfire that took place in broad daylight on a Nashville street yesterday. Those stories and more coming up here at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.